Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video from Radio 1.
So, Sucheta and Steaffy, thank you so much for joining us on 94.3 Radio 1.
Thank you so much, Erica. Thank you for having us and finding our concept very interesting. Thank you so much for that.
Very interesting. Leading into Women's Day, the whole week we're celebrating women, and you two girls are it, really. We're talking about coping in times such as these, and it's so important for us to find the right coping mechanisms that we can easily turn to. So to start things off, I'd love to get your individual stories. Let's start with you, Sucheta.
Like you know, my name is Sucheta NK. I finished my master's in clinical psychology in 2018. Post that, I've been working as a psychologist. So I've done, after my master's in clinical psychology, I really wanted to work with kids. So I was working with an NGO where I was a socio-emotional learning teacher. I was a school counselor, as well as I would do different kinds of, emotional well-being projects with the kids. So I would work primarily with kids from the slums. So the age group was somewhere around 13 to 17. And post that, I kind of, went back into myself and I understood that, okay, this is going well for me. Where can I challenge my skills? Where can I bring something else to the table? That's when I quit my full-time job and I started working as a freelance psychologist. So currently, I also, apart from Cope Culture, I also run a page called the Silence Counselor on Instagram, where I introduce various mechanisms of coping. I try to break down therapy and the psychology world to be more approachable. So that's what I've been doing with the page. And now I do freelance clients. I take freelance clients as well as I run Cope Culture.
Okay, that's fantastic. Let's move it over to you, Steaffy.
Okay, so I have finished my master's in industrial psychology, and Sucheta and we've known each other since about 23 years. So we are childhood friends, and she's always been my senior.
That's awesome.
So from school to undergraduation to master's, she's been my senior. So I finished my master's in industrial psychology, as I mentioned, after which I took a few months of break and got into pageantry. Yes.
Really?
So, yes. So I got into pageantry and I won a pageant called Miss Cuba India, after which I represented India at an international platform, which is Miss Cuba International. And it had scuba diving into it. So I had to be a certified diver as well. It was a really fun experience. I can tell you that.
Wow.
Yes. After which I decided to come back into the field of psychology and I started working as a teaching associate in a university. So I've completed about 2 years there and I decided to quit in Jan. That is about 2 months back. And then COPE emerged and we decided that we want to take this really ahead.
Yeah.
So that's how it is.
I like the phrase as well, cope culture, because I think in today's day and age, faced with, all kinds of situations from pandemic to wars, for goodness sake, we've got, our anxiety levels have never been higher. Right. So what is it that makes cope culture stand out and different, compared to other therapies that people, probably refer to?
So if I have to elaborate cope, it's connecting over positive experience. It's just not the word cope.
Right.
So that's how we came up with our company name. So it was actually a team effort between the two of us. Like I found CO and she was like PE. So it's like connecting over something and such a positive experience because that's what we are about.
Right.
Yeah.
So connecting over positive experiences, we'd love to understand a bit more because I jumped onto your Insta profile and there's some really interesting things that you guys are doing, exercises and stuff with the general public. So take us through some of that.
So we are 4 months old, Erica, to be honest. We are just 4 months old and we have introduced a concept of wellness. It's called the wellness. That's our IP. So it's morning experience, which we have specially curated to bring in positive experiences so that we endorse well-being as a process. It's not a product. It's not going to happen one time. It's a process that's going to happen. So you need to make sure that, whatever we are introducing you to, you need to make sure that you are inculcating certain aspect or whatever you take back from our experiences, at least for 10 to 15 minutes in your daily life.
Right. Well, you, for instance, like you said, you've been scuba diving. That definitely is
Yes.
therapy for many people.
Yes.
So what are some of the really unique experiences that Cope culture offers?
I think one of the most unique things we had done is one of our first events, it was a sharing circle. It's basically, we had invited about 10 to 15 individuals. And for that particular session, we had focused on new food business owners. We got them together and we had this cheese and wine tasting experience combined with a sharing circle. So we had certain prompts that brought out certain personal experiences, stories of people. So we're a very firm believer in the fact that, conversations and the community experience can really bring together people where they feel supported, where they feel like, okay, there's somebody out there who's experiencing something similar. Apart from that, we also introduce sound healing, yoga, as well as, free flow dance movement in our events, because this is something that we don't really get an opportunity to do on a daily basis. So I think that it's very important to introduce to the community that, hey, this is something that you can do every day. And it's one good coping mechanism that you can introduce into your life.
Right. So coming from a psychologist perspective, what are some of the more natural coping mechanisms that, one can turn towards in moments of stress, anxiety, or like, an onset of a sudden stress-induced, event in someone's life?
So I think one thing we forget in our daily schedules is that, we're so busy with work, our personal lives, our social lives, we forget to do this check-in with ourselves, right? We don't,
Right.
half of the time, we don't really understand how we're feeling, why we're feeling something about a certain thing, what are our triggers. So just spending at least maybe the first 15-20 minutes of your day, setting an intention for your day that, hey, listen, what do I hope to achieve today? What is one thing that I can do that focuses towards my growth? And at the end of the day, similarly, doing a check-in with yourself where you're like, hey, what went well for me today? What didn't go that well? What can I do better tomorrow? So just that simple action of going within yourself is something most of us really ignore or don't really take into consideration. So just spend some time with yourself, understand what you're feeling, understand maybe why you're feeling that way. I think it can do wonders. It's also something we practice in therapy as well.
Okay. And from a woman's perspective, how different, is it for us as women to cope today in today's day and age? What are the different, stressors, for example, that we as women go through today, and maybe some suggestions for us to be able to cope better?
I think one of the biggest stresses that women go through is trying to balance it all together. I think, again, based on culture to culture, is if strictly speaking of the Indian culture, there's way too much pressure on women. Have a job, take active participation at home, do this, do that. So it's a very packed day that we face. We have a lot of tasks that we have to do in our day in terms of your social life, in terms of your professional life, in terms of your personal life. So one thing I would advise women is that whatever you're feeling, don't keep it to yourself. Find a support group, find people who you trust, people who you can share with. If you're not able to find that, I would definitely suggest look for a therapist as well. I think that's very, very important for men and women equally as well.
Yep.
But from personal experience, I feel that women have it a lot more difficult, again, speaking strictly from the culture point of view. So I think talking, voicing out what they're feeling, finding a support group, and also just the internet's a wonderful place, right? There's so many things that are available. So take some time for yourself. That is something most of us forget to do. Take some time for yourself. Yeah. Watch what other women all over the world are doing to cope as well. Pick up what works for you, experiment, see what works for you, see what doesn't work for you, reach out for a support group. And also, if you feel like you need extra guidance, seek out a therapist. A lot of wonderful therapists out there online, face to face. So when that option is available, why not? I think everybody should go for it.
Okay. What about your message to the men then?
Okay. I think, again, there is a lot of pressure on men as well, right? That toxic masculinity which comes into place, like man up, don't cry, behave in a certain way, right? Don't be this. You can't voice out your problems. And I think that culture we need to actively challenge on a daily basis. That the generation that we have now, especially the people who come for our events, right? I love to see men opening up in these spaces, saying that, hey, listen, I'm feeling this way. And I'm okay voicing it out. It doesn't make me weak. It doesn't make me look at myself as, somebody who's less than. So I think actively, one advice I would give to men is challenge that, preconception they have about this concept of masculinity. You don't have to be strong all the time. You don't have to pretend like things are okay. We know that you have the world on your shoulders, but you can always ask for help. There's always help available.
Well, I have to say thank you so much for joining us and, working towards a culture where we can, hopefully cope better and deal with life, much, much better. Thank you so much for joining us, both of you, and happy Women's Day.
Thank you so much, Harika. Thank you.
Thank you, Harika.
Wishing you the very same. Thank you so much again for giving us this opportunity and to exactly talk about COPE, about our views about mental health. And I hope that this actually brings in insight to people. So thank you so much, Elija. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
One World, your station.
Radio 1.